Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining today's stream. Happy Easter to everybody, especially to those members of our community that celebrate today. It's a greater Christian celebration, of course, and we Orthodox Christians celebrate today. Of course, happy Easter to everybody. It is 12th of April, 3 p.m. Moscow time, and this is big community chat, dear friends. So therefore, even though I have a new segment for you, and I will go through news that I have bookmarked for this live stream, it's a big community chat. So if you want to have a conversation about any topic, literally any topic, you can send your question or the commentary either through support platforms, PayPal or Boosty. Links are on this video in the description box. Or you can use super chat feature on Rumble. But if you don't want to do none of it, then just use capital letters. That will do, of course, right? And it will make your comment easier in the chat to spot. Capital Q, capital letters will do. All of their friends, it's usually these Sunday streams are also fundraising streams, and if you like my work past week, we'll be grateful if you will donate to this project, which is constantly in the freaking survival mode, and that makes me anyways, as I said, man, there is a lot of news that I want to share with you, and time to time I will monitor chatter, and I might react on some topics during the news segment itself. Let's say it's a community chat, so it's freestyle basically, right? So, okay, that's being said, maybe I should drop link to my Patreon page. Probably makes sense. I don't know. There are no new members on the Patreon, although I'm dropping these Patreon links every day in the chat. But yes, nevertheless, let me copy this and drop in chat in case you can, in case you would consider to join. Should be visible on both channels. So okay, I dropped Patreon, and I will drop in the YouTube chat also a link to my Rumble channel. You can watch this live stream on Rumble. Weekend videos, weekend live streams stay open, of course, are not unlisted as videos during the work days. So yes, and on Rumble you can use that super chat feature, or round feature as it call it. And okay, that's my Patreon, by the way. You click that link, and then you will decide what to do. And also there is a Boosty. Link to my Boosty is in description box. That's how it looks. Very useful platform for creators, especially creators from Russia, but unfortunately members of our community find this platform difficult to navigate. I don't know why, man. You just click here, log in. Your platforms will pop up that are popular in your region of the world. You just use your existing account to enter the platform, right? And you are there. It's easy, but I'm using also my existing accounts on one of the Russian platforms, Russian or foreign. It doesn't matter. You can use existing account, and just anyways, let's go through some news. And of course, Easter truce that was announced by Russian president is in force since yesterday 4 p.m. And well, one might argue that Easter truce is kind of holding, right? Not really though, because well, we have this report from TASS news agency, and the report was published at 10 a.m. this morning, right? And report is about violations of the ceasefire by Kyiv regime forces. And look at the headline there. A Russian Ministry of Defense has recorded 1,971 violations by their Kyiv regime's forces since the beginning of this Easter ceasefire. It is crazy, 1,900 plus violations just until 10 a.m. this morning. Since then, there are more violations, I guess. And also, if you are interested, well, Russian air defenses shut down 134 drones that were launched by Kyiv regime with assistance of NATO to strike deep into Russian territory in past 24 hours. That's how Kyiv regime and its NATO backers are holding to ceasefire. Just saying, man. Right. Nevertheless, I think it was the right decision on behalf of Moscow, on behalf of Kremlin, to declare this Easter ceasefire. But it was known for everybody, of course, that Kyiv regime and its NATO backers would not honor this ceasefire. Of course, they would not, man. Also, today we have this report that Sweden hijacked another vessel, linked to Russia. It is reported that Sweden has detained a bulk carrier that was transporting coal from Russia. Swedish media reports that the Coast Guard boarded the Panamanian-flagged vessel UE Yuan, which had departed from the Ust-Luga port of the Russian Federation, that is on the Baltics. This is the fourth ship detained in just recent weeks by these NATO pirates, NATO terrorists. According to Swedish authorities, the UE Yuan was on a route to Spain with a cargo of coal. On Saturday, a Coast Guard aircraft allegedly noticed that crew of the bulk carrier was washing the deck, resulting in a coal duster entering the water. Goodness me, man. I mean, they can come up with any justification. They could use their fantasy a little better. Crew was washing the deck and dust particles end up in the water. Seriously, man? What the clowns, man. Representatives of the Coast Guard stated that their vessel does not belong to Russian shadow fleet and is not subject to sanctions. However, detention of the bulk carrier was part of a new, more active strategy to prevent violations at sea. Okay, basically, dear friends, this is an embargo, blockade, maritime blockade of the Russian Federation that NATO is trying to impose, and they will continue. They will, as of now, on the European ports of the Russia, right? And they will continue, of course, to terrorize vessels that are directly or indirectly linked to Russian Federation. They will continue until Russian president will finally recognize that these restraint policies that he is exercising for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now, if not more, actually, is not working and is harmful. Maybe Russian president will never realize that. Maybe he will be sure until the end of his life that he was correct with these restraint policies. Well, possible. I mean, he's an old man, and you know how old people are. If they are fixated on something, it is very hard to change their mind. And looks like Russian president is fixated on these restraint policies and on attempts to build up some freaking bridges with Washington. Nonsense. In both cases, it's a freaking nonsense. It's waste of time. But tell this to Russian president, man. And he's a decision maker, right? So it is what it is. Nobody in this freaking world understands no more what the heck is going on. Why we being so restrained? Why we are inviting upon ourselves more and more trouble? Why we are emboldening Western elites to go even more crazier? But yet again, if Putin is fixated on this policy of restraint and building bridges with Washington, and he wants to be part of Western elites or something. I don't know, man. Right? What the hell is going on there? It's an issue with Russian elites, historically speaking. Right? They're always Russia was struggling with this situation when among elites there was always quite a lot of people that wanted to be acknowledged by the Western elites, wanted to be taken by the Western elites as an equal, as a part of a club. And I guess Russian president is one of those politicians that seeks this Western approval or something. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't see Western elites equal to me, man. Right? I think I see Western elites to be scum of humanity, obviously, and therefore I would not even shake hands with those biological rubbish. But many elites in Russia, many representatives of elites see the situation differently. They are desperate to be acknowledged by the Western elites, man. And this might be their situation with the Putin. After all, during the beginning of his career, he was doing whatever he could, man, to join the Western club, right? It's not like we all forget what's up, man. We did not. Western ruling class rejected him. They treated him as a like third class entity, right? And yeah, he was not happy about it, I guess. Remember that 2007 speech in the Munich Security Conference and stuff. But just because he was rejected, and just because relationships between him and their Western so-called elites are not really in the best shape, it does not mean that Putin no longer seeks to be acknowledged by the West, man, and treated as an equal or member of the club, right? Which is sickening, actually. If true, this is a sickening, man, because Western elites are scum of humanity. They are no way, not just not equal to me personally, but they are, I would not ever consider them to be anywhere near, man. They are scum of humanity, for God's sake, man. All these European so-called royal families, all these European and Western so-called elites, these are scum of humanity, biological rubbish, man. Why would I ever consider them to be equal to me, man? I might not be angel, but I'm not a freaking genocidal maniac, right? I lived my life constantly trying to be a good human being, unlike Western elites, man. So I don't know, man, what the hell is going on with the Russian elites, but this is a historical track that there are certain groups of people, quite often majority actually of the elites, that are desperate to get this freaking attention and acknowledgement from the West. It's freaking sickening, man. But it is what it is. It is what it is, right? I shared my take on these restraint policies a million times. I don't get it, never understood her, never supported, right? And that's where I'm standing. If you understand what that restraint policy is, please explain to me, because Kremlin is not in a hurry to explain to the public what they are doing actually. Why they being this careful and soft in regards to enemies of Russia, actual enemies of Russia. And that includes, of course, first and foremost, Western elites that are in charge of those Western countries that being used against us, right? Anyways, that's what's going on there. And of course, Middle East, by the way, you know already that this so-called peace talks in Islamabad break down as it was expected. I spoke about it in my previous updates, that none of us should expect any breakthroughs, because Western ruling class will never allow will never agree to de-escalate in the Middle East, because they cannot afford failure in their Middle Eastern chapter of the long-standing, decades-long strategy to not just maintain, but further strengthen their dominance in this world, and simultaneously to destroy China and Russia. Middle Eastern chapter is crucial in that strategy. And that chapter is focused on one thing only, which is isolation of the region for as long as possible from their global economy, to force China to increase its dependence, energy dependence on the Russian Federation up to a critical level. That's what's going on there in the Middle East, right? They don't give a damn about democracy, human rights, or anything. All they want is to isolate Middle East from a global economy as much as possible. And just a reminder, dear friends, 80-90% of all the energy from Middle East goes where? Towards global South. Which country is a major consumer? China. China was getting 40% of its energy imports from Middle East. And once they will lose this source, you think what they're gonna do? Where they're gonna go for additional energy that they will need desperately? They're gonna go to Russia, right? And they are already increasing significantly imports of Russian energy sources, and that's extremely dangerous, by the way, for both for China and for Russia. In none of our interests, neither in interest of Russia, neither in interest of China, it is to this country to become extremely dependent on Russian supplies. We don't need that. Let's do business in a normal way, right? You are not extremely dependent on us, because extreme dependence creates extreme conditions, extreme situations, and grounds for possible tensions that can be and most likely will be used by our enemies against us, right? And that's exactly the plan of the Western elites. But anyways, I spoke about this reading of my reading of the big picture many times before. You might agree with me, you might not, but anyways, I think globalist neocons and Zionists, their situational allies, Zionists, they cannot afford I think that's their mindset, that they cannot afford to lose in the Middle Eastern chapter, and they will continue escalation. And there is three ways, I think, at least, that they might escalate. Either one of the scenarios could be implemented, or even all three scenarios, and I will get to that point in a minute. But in Islamabad, as it was expected, and as I was saying, these talks break down. J.D. Vance spoke about the matter, addressed the journalists, and said that, well, even though they were negotiating in a good faith, which is, I mean, come on, man, seriously, J.D. Vance, this freaking liar, and nobody was negotiating in a good faith? Come on, man, come on. We are not that freaking stupid in this world, right? But he went to say that, and this is quote, we have not reached an agreement, and I think it's bad news for Iran, much more than for the US. I mean, seriously, there is nothing good for Iran in a war, but it's you that launched that war, right? And Iran is beating crap out of you. Iran is humiliating you on the world stage. So that's where you are, J.D. Vance and all the other puppets in the US government, right? Including Trump. But let me give you this short clip of Vance and his statements on this matter.
Now for 21 hours, and we've had a number of substantive discussions with the Iranians. That's the good news. The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement, and I think that's bad news for Iran much more than it's bad news for the United States of America. So we go back to the United States having not come to an agreement. We've made very clear what our red lines are, what things we're willing to accommodate them on, and what things we're not willing to accommodate them on. And we've made that as clear as we possibly could, and they have chosen not to accept our terms. Questions?
So that's one video from the Vance, and Same time, let me give you another one. As a confirmation that U.S. delegation was never serious, by the way. As additional confirmation, J.D. Vance went to talk about nuclear program again, which clearly indicates that they are not serious, because they are kind of demanding from Iranian side to get rid of something that they don't have. So a priori, there can be no agreement there between the sides, right? And that's one indicator. But most important indicator is that take a look at who Washington was representing. Who was representing Washington? J.D. freaking Vance? Nobody. Witkoff? Nobody. Kushner? Nobody. Since when these elements become experts in economics, experts in, let's say, nuclear science, nuclear physics? What they were able to negotiate, honestly, man. What they were able to negotiate. They have no freaking idea about any of this stuff, man. They are not an experts in the field. If Washington was serious, they will send some serious people. I mean, they can find some serious experts in the US. I have no doubts about it, right? Serious negotiators, but they send Witkoff, Kushner, and this freaking Vance. Really? And we have to believe that Washington is genuine in this talks. It's crazy, by the way, right? But let me give you another short video from Vance's statements.
Precisely what have they rejected here? Can you help us understand it a little bit?
Well, I won't go into all the details because I don't want to negotiate in public after we've negotiated for 21 hours in private. But the simple fact is that we need to see an affirmative commitment that they will not seek a nuclear weapon, and they will not seek the tools that would enable them to quickly achieve a nuclear weapon. That is the core goal of the President of the United States, and that's what we've tried to achieve through these negotiations. Again, their nuclear program, such as it is, the enrichment facilities that they had before, they've been destroyed. But the simple question is, do we see a fundamental commitment of will for the Iranians not to develop a nuclear weapon, not just now, not just 2 years from now, but for the long term? We haven't seen that yet. We hope that we will.
You see, how are you going to negotiate with creatures that are coming up with such a stance? They basically went into Islamabad to buy some time, pretend that they are negotiating. They bring with them some ultimatum to the Iranian side. Stay there in Islamabad for a day, and they left. Right? That's all, man. While the Iranian side sent actually serious people, man, serious negotiators. It was a big delegation from Iranian side, right? Experts included. And US sent Kushner, Witkoff, and J.D. Vance, people that have no freaking idea about anything. Really? Okay, man. Okay, so this was never serious negotiations, by the way, of course. It was just yet another deception operation on behalf of US. I spoke about it in previous my videos. I said we should not expect any breakthroughs because US, Western ruling class, and that includes, of course, countries that they control, Western ruling class and their Zionist allies, just want to buy time until they will launch, until they will prepare a ground for next phase of escalation. And that's exactly what is going on, right? Question now is, what about this so-called ceasefire? What about this so-called ceasefire that was announced by sides, right? And partially is holding. And I think ceasefire, this ceasefire stuff might actually hold for 2 to 4 weeks, actually, because US and Israel run out of long-range weaponry, largely, right? They are not even hiding that are very busy while reloading basically their destroyers and they're bringing more long-range means into region. Trump spoke about it, isn't it, in his posts. he cannot keep his mouth shut. So he said it publicly that they are busy now reloading their destroyers. They're sending more long-range weaponry towards the region, but yet again they are running out of those long-range weapons, and they have now several scenarios, right? Yes, they can still launch 3, 4, 500 Tomahawks and their JSSM missiles combined, let's say. They can do this, but if they did not manage to achieve anything other than killing civilians and destroying civilian infrastructure as much as they could, if they didn't achieve their political goals, actual goals, with their 5,000 plus missiles, long-range strikes, then what they gonna achieve with their 3 to 500 long-range strikes? Not really much, isn't it? And again, question is what they gonna do. American side probably would not be against maintaining this current so-called ceasefire for 2 to 4 weeks, because that will give them time to deploy whatever long-range means they have left there, rearm their destroyers, rearm their attack submarines, right? Also, by the way, technical maintenance needs to be done on those aircrafts that were actively engaged for more than a month in military operations. Every aircraft has its limits, right? Its airframe, its engines. After all, pilots themselves need some break and the rest. And 2 4 weeks will serve for them too as a break. Plus, airframes, engines will be checked. Some will be replaced. Some will receive some necessary maintenance. So American side might actually maintain this so-called ceasefire for 2 to 4 weeks, while they will simultaneously work on other scenarios for the next phase of escalation, which is, as I said in my previous updates, 3 directions. One, and none of these scenarios are good for humanity, obviously. It's all evil plans that Western ruling class might and most likely will come up. Of course, one is deployment of European NATO troops. And they are preparing ground for that. This false narrative that was spread in the West, that Iran no longer knows where their mines are in the Strait of Hormuz or elsewhere, and there are some mine clearing operation has to be declared and stuff. This is all BS, of course, just a false narrative to justify deployment of European minesweepers from European NATO member states. Once those minesweepers possibly are deployed, then Israeli, US, British Secret Services can strike that minesweeper, sink it or kill numerous militaries there, create basically grounds for 5th article to be invoked. And then, well, NATO will have a green light to send whatever they can send, and Europeans can actually deploy another 3 to 5,000 long-range missiles, right? So that's also something to keep in mind. That's one direction. Another direction that might be deployed or might be implemented simultaneously with the first one, NATO's involvement. Another one is the preparations for a ground invasion. And that will take more time, of course. While these European countries, together with US and Israel, will be busy with the long-range strikes, US and very same European NATO member states will prepare their militaries, ground forces, to be deployed in the region for invasion of Iran. And that takes at least 3 to 6 months. At least 3 to 6 months. European militaries are in such a bad shape, by the way, that I'm not even sure 6 months will be enough for them to deploy 100,000 troops, for example. I'm not sure they can do this, but they will try. And US militaries are not really in much better shape, really. In any ways, that's the second scenario that they might actually implement simultaneously with the first one. preparations of the ground for invasion of Iran, which will require 300,000 to 500,000 troops at least. And the third scenario, which might be implemented simultaneously with the first and the second, is nuclear strikes. And when it comes to nuclear strikes, I mean, I know many experts in field are talking about this stuff. Majority, as far as I can tell, majority predicts that Israel might use nuclear weapons. Western ruling class, might authorize Israel or greenlight Israel for that, but I have to disagree with that take. I don't think Israel gonna use nukes. I think US gonna use nukes, and they will try to justify deployment of nukes in the very same way as they are justifying deployment of nukes against Japan during the Second World War. That this way they will save, or they did save, more people. And they might use nukes against nuclear facilities. That might be primary or initial target, nuclear facilities. They might deploy 1 to, God knows how many, but 1 to few nukes in a hope that will create tremendous hysteria, panic in Iran. Society will collapse, state will collapse, everything will collapse, and Iran will end up in a full-out civil war on ethnic and sectarian lines, and then globalists, neocons and Zionists will manage to spread out this war, this violence on ethnic and sectarian lines throughout the region, while pushing Gulf monarchies into this war also. So there is these 3 scenarios that I see that can be implemented, either one of those or even all 3 of those, right? It will take different frame time. It will have a different time frame for each scenario, but they might actually go ahead with all 3, right? That for the next phase of escalation, they might still fail, right? I think there is a serious probability that even if they will go for all 3 scenarios, they will fail. Iranian society is demonstrating its strength. If even nukes are used against them, I don't think that will break society in Iran. I mean, Eastern mentality, Eastern societies, by the way, and I know what am I talking about. I myself, Georgian Ossetian, I don't consider myself to be European. I am Indo-European. That's my race, but I myself don't consider to be European, right? My mentality is an Eastern mentality. Georgian society is an Eastern society. And when it comes to Ossetian, I'm Georgian Ossetian. Ossetians, by the way, are Iranic-speaking people, right? Descendants of Alans, Skytho-Sarmatians. They are Iranic-speaking people, right? As far as I can tell, only Iranian-speaking people that are vast majority Christians, Orthodox Christians, but that's a whole different story. And so I consider myself to be Eastern, from Eastern society, let's say this way, and my mentality to be there as such too. And I think I can somewhat better understand Iranian people than Europeans can. And if my understanding is correct, man, even if nuclear weapons are deployed against Iranians, that would not break them. That would not break them, man. That's what I think. And so there is a high probability that even with all 3 scenarios, and God knows, maybe globalists, Zionist neocons will come up with some more scenarios. There is a high probability that they will fail anyways. They already failed, basically. They just don't want to see it, acknowledge it, right? As they failed in a proxy war against Russia. They are still trying their best to prolong the war against Russia, this proxy war, but they failed already. It's clear for everybody that they failed, right? Same goes for Middle East. They just fail in the Middle East much quicker because of the strength of the Iranian society, and also I will add because of their strong diplomacy from Moscow and Beijing, from other capitals too, but because of the strong diplomacy from Moscow and Beijing, because I'm quite sure one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, why Gulf monarchies did not enter the war against Iran already is that Russia and China were very persistent in their communication with the Gulf monarchies to stay out of this war. And so, yeah, that's how I see their situation, right? But because Western ruling class is unable to face the reality, they will continue escalation. And as I said, this current so-called ceasefire might last for 2 to 4 weeks, maybe, right? Probably West would not be against it. Question is, why would Iran agree on that? That's a question, because is it worth for Iranian side to give time to the West to reload, to deploy more assets, to prepare ground for possible NATO deployment? Does it make sense for Iran? I don't know. I don't think so. Right? So therefore, maybe Tehran will make decision to give a 24-hour ultimatum to U.S.-Israeli side to agree on actual de-escalation, or fighting will resume. And right now, neither Israel, neither U.S. can respond strongly, because again, with the exception of nukes, they don't really have much, right, to deploy as of now. Anyways, let me give you some more news about this Islamabad so-called talks. Iranian foreign ministry commented on the results of the negotiations with the United States. A deal following a task between Tehran and Washington, Islamabad failed due to fundamental disagreements on 2 or 3 issues. Iranian foreign ministry spokesman Ismail Baghei stated, "We reached understanding on a number of issues, but on 2 or 3 important issues, our views were far apart, and ultimately the negotiations did not lead to an agreement." The Mehran news agency quotes him as saying, according to Diplomat, the conversations took place in an atmosphere of mistrust, and no one expected an agreement this time. Despite this, Baghei exposed confidence that contacts with Pakistan and other friendly countries in the region will continue. Just look at their language, by the way. Language difference. Iranian foreign ministry is responding on the matter with professional language, professional taker. They might don't say much, but they did not freaking brag about anything. They did not try to insult their counterparts, while all these comments from the American side, man, from Vance and from all the others, are such a low level. It's just, I don't know, man. It's hard to believe that this is actually happening, man. And these morons have been put in a position of power in the US, in a major nuclear superpower, but that's how it is. That's how it is, man. Tasnim news agency is also reporting that Iran rejects US offer to remove enriched uranium. Well, you see there that Vance was talking about this nuclear program. Washington demands US to get rid of nuclear weapons program that they don't have. Washington also insists nuclear enrichment infrastructure to be destroyed in Iran, and Tehran says no, not happening. Why would they agree on that, man? Why would they ever agree on that? They want to have a full cycle. They don't want to be dependent neither on Russia, neither on anyone else. for nuclear fuel, or for enriched uranium for scientific research, or for medical equipment that actually uses enriched uranium. In some cases, up to 15, 18% enriched uranium, 20. And I remind you that they enrich uranium up to 60% to join the club of countries that have a latent nuclear deterrent, like Japan does, like Germany does, like Brazil does, and some others. Iranian side was thinking, I guess, that this latent nuclear deterrent would play a positive role and actually deter the psychopaths that are in charge in the West and in Israel. But it did not work, unfortunately. It did not work. But in any ways, why would Iran, that invested so many generations in scientific, in educational system, in scientific research, in engineering research, and reach full cycle, by the way, in the nuclear technology, when it comes to nuclear power plants, when it comes to enrichment, why would they get rid of these achievements of the nation? What the hell, right? If they wanted to build the nukes, they would already have it. Correct? After all, man, it's insult to our intellect when these Western so-called elites are coming up and talking about Iran's nuclear weapons and stuff, when they are talking about this shit for last 40 freaking years, man. That Iran gonna get nukes in next 2 weeks, and then next 2 weeks, and then next 2 weeks, and it continues for a freaking 3-4 decades now, this nonsense. And everyone is acting like those people, these so-called elites in the West, should be taken seriously. No, man, they should not. Not a single word that comes out from their mouth should be taken seriously, ever. Right? During the negotiations with Tehran, Washington insisted on the removal of enriched uranium stockpiles from Iran. Iranian news agency Tasnim reported, citing a source, Iran refused to comply with this condition. And yes, why would they? Why would they give up on this enriched uranium? If I was advising Iranian government, I would say, you know what, go nuclear, man. Go nuclear. Immediately, man. If you can, just build freaking couple of nuclear bombs, man. Just do it. Because the latent nuclear deterrent did not help for Western ruling class. Not gonna stop, man. They're not gonna stop. So if you have somewhere is enriched freaking uranium, if you can upgrade it, further enrich up to military grade, and if you actually can build a couple of nuclear bombs, basic nuclear bombs or whatever, just do it. Just freaking do it, man. That's what I would actually recommend to Iranians, because it seems like this is the only way Iranian people can be protected. It might not help still, by the way. Even presence of the nuclear weapons may not deter globalists, because for them, this Middle Eastern chapter is a critical part of their strategy, focused on domination of the world and destruction of China and Russia. But if Iran has means to retaliate with their extreme force, that might change. That might just force globalists, neocons, and their Zionists to change their calculus. Because nukes are game changers, man. Whichever way you look at it, nukes are serious stuff, man. You drop one bomb, there is no freaking industrial area. Entire freaking industrial area is gone, right? You drop one nuke, and there, massive military naval base, for example, is just vaporized. It's serious stuff, right? I mean, I don't want NPT to become completely irrelevant, nuclear non-proliferation treaty. But at the same time, I do understand that Iranian people need to be defended. And if Russia and China are not willing to step up and make a stand and make it clear for the Western elites that if they don't stop targeting Iran, they will provide, Russia and China will provide Iran with a nuclear umbrella, I mean, if Moscow and Beijing are not willing to do so, then what choice Iran has, really? Other than try as much as they can to go freaking nuclear. You tell me. And it's not just Iran. I'm quite sure, by the way, people in Ankara, in Turkey, probably already are working on a military nuclear program, because they see what's up there in the Middle East, right? And they know they are next. They are next target of the Zionists. They know that perfectly well. And it's not just Turkey. Many other countries in this world probably are thinking, you know what? Western elites are crazy, man. Zionists are crazy. It's the only way we can try at least to truly protect ourselves, to have an actual deterrent, is a nukes. Nothing else might work. That's what Western ruling class did, man. They killed nuclear non-proliferation treaty with their insanity, with which they are trying to implement this strategy of theirs, right? Since 2008. That's when they began implementing this current strategy, right? When they ordered their proxy regime in Georgia, led by Saakashvili, to reignite civil war, first in South Ossetia, against South Ossetia, and then to simultaneously provoke direct conflict with Russia while targeting Russian peacekeepers there in South Ossetia that had their UN mandate. So yeah, I mean, situation is serious, and if Iran can build some nukes, they should, man, right? They should, for defensive purposes, and you know what? Iranian leadership, I mean, take a look at their decades. Iranian leadership clearly demonstrated that they are much more serious, uncomparably much more intellectual, serious, decent people than Western ruling class ever had, I will argue, Western countries ever had. Honestly, man, I don't think any Western country are led by people that are as decent as Iranian leadership now. And take a look at the language alone, man. Language alone of the people. You know, I shared with your statement of foreign representative of Iranian foreign ministry, clear professional statement. And I also show your statements of Vance, who is bragging about, I mean, this is bad for Iran more than for us. What are they talking about? If you have nothing to say, just don't say anything. You know, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Anyways, let me check on this segment. What else do I still have here? Well, Turkish journalist Setin shared information with the public based on sources that allegedly there was a sharp argument during their US-Iran negotiations that almost turned into a fight, physical fight. And then quote here from that report, it is claimed that a few minutes ago, tense situation occurred, that happening during those negotiations. Tense situation occurred between Minister Abbas Araghchi, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, and US President Special Envoy Witkoff, which almost turned into a physical fight due to serious disagreements over the management of the Strait of Hormuz. Never threatened the Iranians and many dots there. Abbas Araghchi stated there, and yeah, okay, man. Okay, I can understand frustration of Abbas Araghchi. This is a professional diplomat, and he's in a situation and he has to talk to these freaking morons, right? And nobodies, literally nobodies, scum of humanity like Witkoff and Kushner and these other garbage vents. So I can understand why Iranian delegation, these professionals, by the way, educated people, professionals, actually respected on a world stage. And these people have to talk to these nobodies, man. And at some point, I guess Arachi had enough and said, you know what, shut the fuck up, bitch, or I might take your fucking head off. I mean, maybe Arachi was more polite. He was more polite, of course. He's a professional diplomat, but yeah, man, I can believe that at some point, some members of Iranian delegation just, you know, expressed their take more strongly than usual, right? I can see that happening for sure. And meanwhile, Trump, U.S. President Trump, another genius of our times, which is crazy, man. Another freaking genius of modern era, said that, and this is quote, "We are negotiating whether we make a deal or not. Makes no difference to me," he said. And you know what? He says what he thinks, actually, because he knows this is just fake negotiations. He knows that U.S. delegation was in Islamabad not with the good intentions. All they wanted and still want is to buy some time, 2-4 weeks until they will reload, right, and prepare ground for next phase of escalation and to adapt to whatever scenarios they are going to adapt. Deployment of NATO assets or the nuclear strike or preparation of possible ground incursion, whatever plans they have, right? And I don't believe that Trump actually knows entire plan of the Western ruling class. Of course not. He's being given just little fragments, just enough to move him on this desk in a direction that Western ruling class wants. But at least he knows that these talks were never serious in Islamabad. That they just buying time, right? We all know this. Everyone knows this. So I can believe that he was honest when he said that it makes no difference for him if there is a deal or no deal, because all they need is a couple of weeks, right, before they will launch next phase of this war again. That's all, right? So yeah, it is what it is, and I still have quite a number of news there, dear friends. But before I continue, let me highlight super chat. There was a super chat from Scooby on Rumble, and I just saw another super chat also from Scooby on Rumble, and I will react on both super chats, and then let's continue. Then let's continue with more news, and there is quite interesting stuff, by the way. Share your take, what you make of this live stream already, dear friends. And as a reminder, I should say it in the beginning of the live stream, but I will say it now as a reminder. I'm going to try from tomorrow on weekdays to have a walk and talk video first. Walk and talk type of news update first, recorded somewhere in Moscow, there on the streets of Moscow, or squares or parks, whatever, right? First update, I want to have this walk and talk type of video. That will be full video will be published on my Patreon and Boosty, but some short clips probably I will publish on YouTube and Rumble. Also, I might use some short clips also during my live streams during the day. So therefore, look, first update will be walk and talk video. Then at 3 p.m. instead of 12 p.m. that I was making first live stream, now live stream will move to 3 p.m. because I will need time, isn't it, to make a walk and talk video. By the way, I will need 3-4 hours at least for that, right? I have to prepare a program, then go out, record this, do some little montage, come back, upload, and all that stuff, right? So it takes time. So therefore, first is a walk and talk type of update, then at 3 p.m. first live stream, and at 9 p.m. Second live stream. So hopefully, community will like this additional content. And now, by the way, let me highlight super chats from Scooby. First super chatter is thank you very much, Scooby, for your super chat on Rumble and the $2 donation. Scooby is commenting, will the West move towards a full blockade of Russia, China, Iran now that they release their can't succeed militarily? No, they're not gonna move like openly. Then that would mean a declaration of the war, right? They cannot go for a full-scale blockade openly. But what they can do is use their proxies to create additional issues, right? And make navigation, if not completely impossible, then quite difficult. And that's what they are doing, for example, in regards to Russian ports in the European part. They are terrorizing commercial vessels in the Baltics. They are terrorizing for a long time now vessels in the Black Sea. They are terrorizing vessels in the Mediterranean. And according to research reports, including by Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, Western ruling class plans to terrorize navigation into Barents Sea and the Northern Sea too. Those seas are used by vessels that are moving in and out of Russian Murmansk port, for example. So you see, they're not going to declare openly maritime blockade, because yet again, that will mean that will be declaration of the war quite effectively, but they will use whatever trickery they can use to make navigation as difficult as possible, and that will cost some money, of course, for Russia, right? Because that will have an impact on the businesses, and ultimately that will have an impact on the income of the Russian budget. That's what they want, and we should keep in mind that main reason why globalists and neocons, Western ruling class, is pushing for this undeclared, unofficial blockade, sort of the Russian ports, and why they are constantly targeting, let's say, the Russian ports in the European part. One of the main reasons is to force Moscow to redirect energy flow towards global south, where main buyer is China. They are working on several directions simultaneously to increase Chinese dependence on Russian energy, right? It's not just the Middle East. Middle East is a crucial part of their strategy, but it's not just the Middle East. They blew up Nord Stream pipeline for this very purpose. They knew that, well, now when Russia cannot sell this volume of gas through Nord Stream pipelines, they will have to do something with it, right? What they're gonna do? They're gonna transform some into LNG and then sell most likely towards the global south, where China is the main buyer. And when it comes to oil portal infrastructure, right? Oil terminals and stuff that been attacked in Ust-Luga or on the Black Sea, Novorossiysk or elsewhere. That is also intent. Those attacks also intend to force Moscow to divert its oil exports towards global south, where yet again, I mean, main buyer is China. So it's not just Middle East. The Western ruling class uses several directions simultaneously to attack Russia, to attack China, and to push Russia to sell more energy to China, and to push China to buy more energy from Russia, which is dangerous, by the way. I mean, when the level of Russian energy exports to China is in 20-30%, okay, but when Russian energy will be in Chinese overall imports will be up to 50-60%, maybe more. I mean, that day will be beginning of their possible serious trouble. We don't need this extreme level of dependence. It's dangerous, right? So that's my answer. They will try to use their proxies. I mean, West will use their proxies to create trouble for both Russia and China. And when it comes to Russia, I mean, they have a lot of proxies, by the way, right? Entire European NATO member states are the proxies, right? Not just Kiev regime, but all the others. And they are actively using them. I just reported that yet another vessel linked to Russia was hijacked by Swedish authorities, right? Swedish pirates, basically. And when it comes to China, by the way, it's not just Taiwan, but it's the Philippines, and it's unfortunately, West has a lot of assets there too in the global south that they are using against China and will continue to use, and will even try to further escalate, right? And they have experience. They know how to do this stuff, man. They know it. Thank you very much, Scooby, once again, for your super chat there, for your $2 donation. And there was another super chat from Scooby. Thanks again, Scooby, for donation and the super chat. And Scooby is commenting, free Imran Khan. Yes, I mean, yeah, he should be free there. I don't believe in any of their allegations against Imran Khan. I don't know much about him. Obviously, I'm not that interested in the Pakistani politics, domestic politics at least. But I hear about Imran Khan first time like decades ago when he was a cricket player, right? So one of the most famous cricket players actually ever. And then he became a politician, he became a prime minister, and then he was ousted after US UK involvement, of course. Imran Khan was the one that accelerated cooperation with China, actually, right? And that was very beneficial for Pakistan, but he was ousted. I think he is still to this moment under the house arrest, right? And he has a lot of support inside the Pakistan, as far as I can tell. And who knows? Maybe he's going to become a prime minister of Pakistan again. Who knows, man? Anything is possible. But I definitely don't trust any of the allegations against him from a current regime there in Islamabad. Once again, thank you very much, Scooby, for your. Thank you very much for your super chat. And dear friends, let's continue. Let's continue with some other news now. And as a reminder, we have a big community chat, isn't it? So you can use either Boosty or PayPal for questions or the comments that you want to be highlighted. A super chat on Rumble, or at least in the chat, if you want to discuss any topic, please use capital letters or capital Q, so that will make it easier to spot. And I will go through chat after the news segment. And okay, meanwhile, let's continue with some other news. And Strait of Hormuz, of course. Iranian side made it clear during these talks in Islamabad that they are in charge there, and they're not gonna back down. They will maintain control over the strait. That's a principal position of Tehran, and I understand why would they have this take. There is no way US gonna pay reparations for all the Israel, by the way, for all the harm that was done to Iranian people and the Iranian economy with this unprovoked war of choice that US and Israel launched under the orders of course, globalists, neocons, and the Zionists. And Iran has to get the compensations some way, and control over the strait definitely can be seen as a way to get some compensation for all the harm that this nation suffered. So I have no issues whatsoever if Iran is in control there. Good luck with their endeavor, by the way. And hopefully they will make good buck. They will make billions and billions and billions, and Iran will thrive. Hopefully, man, right? Definitely after decades and decades of illegal sanctions of the West, Iranian people, I mean, definitely deserve to have a break, right? They should never, ever endure their suffering because of the criminal actions of the West to begin with, but at least they will have a break now, right? And with the expansion of the cooperation with Russia, with China, with India, with other powerhouses in this world, there are chances for Iran to succeed is good. But first and foremost, of course, they have to defend themselves from this evil force that Western elites are, and from those countries that evil force is in control of. And so when it comes to Hormuz Strait, Iran intends to allow no more than a dozen ships through the Strait of Hormuz, with their fee potentially reaching $2 million, the Wall Street Journal reports. As a part of a ceasefire reached with the US this month, Iran told mediators it would limit the number of ships passing through Strait of Hormuz to about a dozen a day and would charge a fee. The fee will reach up to $2 million for the largest super tankers, the article says, and okay, good. I support that. Iran definitely has to be in charge there, and Oman can have a say, obviously, because on one side of the strait is Iran, on the other side is Oman. But as far as I can tell, these routes of navigation are in Iranian territorial waters. But anyways, Tehran already expressed their interest to communicate with Oman and do business together in regards to strait, which is a correct approach, right approach. So yet again, good luck with this. Also, we have this report of additional threats from US. Donald Trump shared on his Truth Social article link, basically, that says the Trump card, the president holds if Iran won't ban naval blockade. And Trump shared this link, and you can see attitude there, isn't it? If Iran don't ban, what the hell are you? Iran beat the crap out of you, right? Iran humiliated you on a world scale like only Vietnamese did. And Afghani people also teach the lesson. That was quickly forgotten by the West, but Afghanis did teach the lesson, man, to the Western elites, right? And Vietnamese did, and Iranians are doing right now. But these morons that are so-called elites in the West, they cannot face the reality. They are living in this freaking bubble of the fantasies of their sick brains are generating. And their statements, the articles are confirming this, right? And there was a reaction of this Trump's post from Iranian embassy in either in Austria or Australia, right? A simple explanation for those concerned: blockade blocks. It cannot open the Strait of Hormuz, only restricted. The only way out of this self-made problem is openness and flexibility in negotiations. Bent to reason, Iranians are responding, and goodness me, man, they are humiliating US leadership on all levels. They are humiliating, man, this US administration and the Western elites, basically, on every freaking level, right? This is amazing to watch, man. I mean, Iranians are doing some incredible job to defend themselves and also to put these freaking Western elites into their places, man. Iranian people are doing greater help, man, to humanity. While defending themselves, they are also doing great service to all of humanity, I will argue. You know? And when it comes to this this crazy idea that US might get, or the West might get in a better position if they will impose maritime blockade on Iran, I mean, yeah, technically speaking, they can definitely shut down navigation into Oman Gulf, right? And Iran would not be able to either export anything or to import anything through this maritime route. Technically, that is possible, but Iran will quickly adapt, man. First and foremost, if now 10, 12 vessels are passing through Strait, if West will impose this, no vessel will pass through Strait. That's the one thing. But Western ruling class wants exactly that, so they would not care about it. Others will, right? The rest of the world will. But same time, Iran will adapt quickly. And alternative routes of export-import will begin operating, and I'm quite sure already beginning to operate, right? Through ground, through Caspian Sea that connects Iran with Russia and Kazakhstan, for example. Russia first and foremost, and also Iran is neighboring with Turkey, by the way, and Turkey, I believe Turkey is absolutely interested Iran to stand strong, right? Turkey absolutely interested in that, and Turkey will provide Iran with assistance, man, and probably are providing with assistance, with intelligence, with some other stuff, because they know they are the next, man. They know, they cannot afford their Western ruling class to succeed in their Middle Eastern chapter 2. It's not just Russia and China, but humanity cannot afford Western ruling class to succeed in their Middle Eastern chapter of their strategy, which is focused, of course, on isolation of this region, total destruction and isolation of this region from the global economy. We cannot afford that as a humanity. And so Turkey will assist Iran big time, of course. Russia, by the way, will assist Iran big time, of course. China will assist Iran. All the neighbors, man. All the neighbors, right? Iraq will assist her. Even if US imposes a maritime blockade on Iran, I mean, they're going to do the same to Iraq also. If yes, that's one story. But if no, then, well, Iran will receive everything from Iraq and will give from Iraq too, and they will sell whatever they want to sell from Iraq. So this, it would not work, man. US, Western ruling class don't really have that many cards. Their main focus was to collapse Iran as a state with this massive wave of attack and to collapse Iranian society, to provoke this civil war. And they failed, man. They failed. And they don't really have much more cards. Even if they deploy ground forces, even if they deploy European countries, US ground forces, European ground forces, long range means everything. Even if they deploy freaking nukes, man, there is a high probability that Western ruling class will still fail to engulf Iran and the entire region into fire of violence on ethnic and sectarian lines and to cut off this region from the global economy for many, many years. They failed, man. They failed. Maybe I'm too optimistic, but I think Western ruling class failed in the Middle Eastern chapter. We have enough indicators of that. So, yeah, that's how it is. And what else have I bookmarked here? SETCOM reported that US begins preparations to clear mines in the Strait of Hormuz. You know this story, dear friends. Yesterday, US sent a couple of destroyers through Strait of Hormuz, and once they reach this, as far as I can tell, by the way, this disputed islands, this area of these three disputed islands between Iran and UAE, Abu Musar, Big Tomb or Greater Tomb, and the smaller Tomb or Lesser Tomb. At that point, Iran issued a 30 minutes warning to these US vessels. The message was also transferred to Pakistani mediators so that J.D. Vance and his crew would be informed. Iranians issued 30 minutes warning before basically sinking both of those destroyers. Allegedly, there was two vessels. Some say 3, some say 1. Who cares? There was U.S. vessels, right, that passed through Strait of Hormuz, entered the Gulf of Persian Gulf, and there were approximately around these islands, disputed islands, and then they made a U-turn after Iranian warning. They made a U-turn and leave their Gulf, right? But of course, U.S. political and military leadership, they have to brag about something, right? They have this need, dependence on acting tough. They have to brag about something every day. That's their life. And yes, SETCOM said that U.S. begins preparations to clear mines in the Strait of Hormuz. This is, remember, I said West began pushing this false narrative about some Iranian mines being loose, right? That Iranians don't know where they drop their mines and stuff, which is nonsense, obviously nonsense. But that's the narrative that they're gonna use to deploy. That's possibly one of their narratives that they might use to deploy European minesweepers, Europe to drag in European or NATO member states, basically, right? And we have this reporter that I saw literally like a few minutes before I launched this live stream. There was a report in New York Times about all this situation in regards to destroyers and stuff. 2 U.S. warships entered the Strait of Hormuz yesterday, but turned back after an Iranian drone appeared overhead. So it was not just warning, but Iran also sent a drone. This was reported by New York Times, citing sources familiar with the operation. The ships were expected to demonstrate that the passage was secure, potentially the first step towards the mine clearing mission. Instead, they withdraw after an Iranian reconnaissance drone showed up. Drone was reportedly shut down by Americans. According to source, the 2 U.S. Navy vessels moved out of the Gulf of Oman, entered the Strait of Hormuz, and then reversed course. While U.S. officials said the drone posed no direct threat, the Navy chose not to proceed under active Iranian surveillance. And so that's what New York Times is reporting about all this story. And well, Iranian side rejected claims that U.S. warships passed through Strait of Hormuz. Vessels were fully monitored and warned. Tasnim news agency is reporting, forced to change the course. So basically, as far as I can tell, vessels passed through Strait, end up on the other side from Oman, Gulf of Oman. They went to Strait, end up on the other side around these islands, disputed islands. Then they received warnings from Iranian side, and they made a wise decision not to freaking risk. Captains of those vessels, by the way, maybe they have different orders, but captains probably understood that it was a very bad idea to continue, and they made a U-turn and left the territory. Good, by the way, because otherwise both those vessels could be on the bottom of the Gulf there, right? So, but yet again, this topic of mines and mine clearing operations and stuff like that gonna be actively used by the Western elites to drag in European NATO member states, right? And I think false flag operations orchestrated by Israeli, US, and British secret services to be expected against those European assets. You know, I mean, Mossad, CIA, and MI6 might do false flag operation on the European soil today, even, right? And then blame Iran for that. But they might do other way. They might, implement false flag operation against the European warship, European minesweeper, for example, somewhere in Oman Gulf or in the Strait or in Persian Gulf, right? And that will be used as a fifth article, potentially, as a trigger for a fifth article of NATO. Clearly, there is a work. There is preparations of the ground, isn't it, for next phase of escalation, and the work is being done in number of directions. Also, I mentioned in my previous updates that there were some yet another false narrative generated in the West that China is plans to supply Iran with some weapons, main parts and stuff like that. Trump was asked about it, and he said that China gonna have a big problems if it sends weapons to Iran. Yet again, what he's talking about. China and Iran are strategical partners. They can do business in any field anytime they want her. And I don't think US is in a position to bully China, man. They are not. They are just not, man. If anything, I mean, China actually can do some tricks that will hurt US economy in a big way. And they already demonstrated their capabilities a couple of times, right? When Trump had no option but to back down on those tariffs and stuff against China, right? So what kind of trickery is this on behalf of White House? China will have big problems. What are you talking about? China will assist Iran if they have such a plan, sir, of course. Probably they do. I'm quite sure Russia is helping Iran. And other countries too, man. I'm quite sure Turkey is assisting Iran. With intelligence, for sure, man. Sometime in the future, probably we will learn about it, that Ankara was actively assisting Iran with intelligence, with some other means, right? India is assisting Iran and will continue to do so. And many other countries. Iran actually has much more friends and supporters in this world than US does. When it comes to true supporters, right? Also, RIA Novosti is reporting that, there's parliamentary elections in Hungary, dear friends, today. It's a big deal. Of course. A few days ago, latest poll numbers were not that good for Orban and his party. Orban is a prime minister, of course, Viktor Orban. But who knows, man? Maybe things have changed. We should never truly trust these polls, anyways, right? So hopefully, Hungarian people will vote for sovereignty and independence, and in that case, they will vote for Orban and CR2 and their team. Hopefully that's what's gonna happen there. Otherwise, I'm afraid Hungary will find itself in a dark place very fast. By the way, very fast. But yet again, it's Hungary. Hungarian people have to decide. It's their country, their life, right? Their choice. But hopefully they will make a wise decision and vote for a bright future for the Hungary, not a dark future. And well, I will end news segment on this reporter that Putin orders major AI projects. The Russian president set a 2030 target for AI integration across all sectors, from industry and logistics to energy and education. Russian President Vladimir Putin has instructed the government to develop a national plan for the development of AI technologies, emphasizing that the accelerated adoption of the AI is crucial for the country's future. Speaking on Friday at the meeting on AI developments, the president called for faster integration of the technology in the economy and the public administration, adaptation of education, risk assessments, and advances in defense and security, while also stressing the need to promote Russian solutions abroad. And yeah, I mean, digitization is a big thing here in Russia. And one might argue that Russia might be one of the leading countries when it comes to this process of digitization. This process slowed down a bit lately, but we might see acceleration. We might see acceleration in this direction also. And I'm gonna tell you, man, I don't know. We are entering in uncharted territory, isn't it? And I don't know what to expect for humanity. I mean, I don't know what humanity should expect, right? From this increased dependence on AI technologies. AI might be savior of the humanity, for sure, and some other scenarios are also possible, and therefore, yeah, some safety mechanisms have to be in place, man. Otherwise, some science fiction movies might actually become reality, So that's what I think about this stuff. And okay, that was it for a news segment, dear friends. Let's check a couple of updates for a couple of media outlets for possible latest updates. What? Seriously? Trump announced the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz? Seriously? United States will stop all vessels attempting to transit the Strait of Hormuz, President Donald Trump announced. I was thinking they were... Come on, man. You cannot make this shit up, really. Strait of Hormuz to be open was one of the demands of Washington, isn't it? And now Trump is announcing that they're going to blockade. Come on, man. I mean, they are so stupid, man. It's so easy to read plans of the Western elites, man. They are not as clever as they think. And now they are openly saying what I was talking about for since forever, that Western ruling class wants to isolate this region from the rest of the world as long as they possibly can, to force China to increase its dependence, its energy dependence on Russia up to critical level. And that's what they are doing, man, actually. And the United States, Trump is announcing that United States will stop all vessels attempting to transit the Strait of Hormuz. Following the ceasefire between Washington and Tehran that came into effect midweek, Islamic Republic Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi announced the opening of this route to civilian vessels, subject to certain conditions being met. And then Trump just recently, I guess like a few minutes ago maybe, wrote on his Truth Social, effective immediately, the United States Navy will begin to process of blockading any and all vessels attempting to enter or exit the Strait of Hormuz. White House chief claims it will be closed soon, and other countries will participate in their operation, but did not specify which ones. He also said he had instructed the military to track and intercept all vessels paying Iran for a passage through Strait. Trump clarified that their meeting with the Iranian delegation in Islamabad went well, with their parties reaching agreements on the most issues except the nuclear issue. He added that Tehran has not abandoned its ambitions. Freaking moron, man. That's what Trump is actually, right? Let's check some other media outlets too for a possible updates. Oh, interesting. Putin discussed Iranian-American negotiations with Pezeshkian. Okay, that's interesting. The Iranian president expressed gratitude for Russia's principled position, including on international platforms aimed at de-escalating the situation. Masoud Pezeshkian also thanked Russia for the humanitarian aid provided to the Iranian people. And I guess it's not just a humanitarian aid, by the way, something else too. So yes, Russian president and Pezeshkian had a phone conversation today. Good. Also, let's see what TASS news agency is reporting here. Of course, breaking news is that this announcement of Trump that they are imposing blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. Russian President Putin will hold talks with the president of Indonesia in Moscow on April 13. This is a big deal too, by the way. Indonesia is an extremely important country. It has a massive population of 300 million plus, right? And their potential in to do business together, man, is massive. I mean, massive, absolutely massive. Right, so it's good that Moscow and Jakarta are in the talks, and their relationships, their business relationships included, are improving. That's a great news, man. It's tremendous potential there, man. Tremendous potential. So that's a good news for sure. Peskov stated that Russia is taking measures to protect oil refineries from attacks by their Ukrainian armed forces. It's NATO attacks, actually. Rosatom is considering a more powerful lunar nuclear power plant project. Okay. Peskov also said territorial disagreements between Russia and UK are a matter of kilometers. Whatever he meant by this. Russian President Putin also had a phone conversation with Lukashenko, president of Belarus, closest ally, of course, of the Russian Federation. We have a confederacy, actually. We have a confederacy. Many people are forgetting about it, but we have a union state, Russia and Belarus. So formally, we are one state with two members of this confederacy. Anyways, dear friends, we can. Let's go for little chat now, and at some point, maybe I will check some Telegram channels too, right? And so let me check here. Oh, by the way, I see super chats. I see super chats. By the way, let me react on the super chats, if I may. It will take just a minute or two, dear friends. Just a sec. Let me. What? I will make screenshots, dear friends. No, come on, man. And I will react on it. And let's have a little chat. I mean, this is crazy. Sometimes nothing works, man. I don't know. Okay, let's draw like that. There was also a gift of premium subscription to a member of our community from Viper. Thank you very much, Viper, for this gift. And now let me highlight these super chats, dear friends. This is the first one. And this is the first one. Just give me a sec, dear friends. Okay. So, Dolphin, thank you very much, Dolphin, for your super chat and $10 donation through on a Rumble. And Dolphin is commenting, I think there is still a good chance that the people of Iran will rise up. There really is a greater operation there by their extreme Islamists there that none of us would want to live under. Dolphin is commenting, well, I think Iranian people, Dolphin, are demonstrated where their stand is. I mean, and they are demonstrating literally on a daily basis while going out on the streets and they're demonstrating support for their Iranian armed forces, demonstrating unity, right? Different ethnic groups, different religious groups, and that's how they manage to withstand the pressure. And when it comes to our system itself, I can see why some people might be confused with their theocracy. Definitely not my cup of tea, by the way. I'm Orthodox Christian. I have respect, of course, tremendous respect to my religion, to religion that I am a part of, and to all the other religions, obviously, fundamental main religions. But I would definitely don't like to live in a country where religious leaders are engaged in directly engaged in politics and stuff like that. Theocracy is not my cup of tea, but it does not mean that I have any rights to tell to other people how they should live, right? Iranian people chose to have this system. And we are talking about, one should not forget that when it comes to Iran, this is one of the oldest civilizations in this world. If any one society knows how to deal with any challenges, that's the Iranian society. So no one should be that arrogant to think that they are in a position to teach Iranians what is good and what is not. And it's definitely none of my business, right? What Iranians will do, what kind of system they will do. Just because I don't understand theocracy, it does not mean that others should not understand too. And after all, Iran is a quite interesting system, actually. It's a theocracy, yes, but they also have democratic institutions, the so-called democratic institutions, by the way, right? I personally don't believe in true democracy whatsoever, because it's a false, right? It's a false. We are just lying to ourselves when we say that, well, there is actual democracy somewhere. There is none, right? Not even a Switzerland, by the way, is actual democracy. Democracy does not exist. It's a myth that was created by the Western elites, right? And then spread around, and people were indoctrinated in this nonsense, right? In reality, there is always a special groups of interest that are making decisions everywhere, always, right? That's their objective reality. We might don't like it. We might prefer to be in this bubble when we think that, well, we have a democracy. We actually make decisions, very important decisions and stuff on that will influence global politics and stuff. But actually, you don't. Take a look at the so-called biggest or leading democracy in this world. Look at US. Trump is implementing policies exactly opposite of everything that he was saying during the elections, based on which he was formally elected, right? So what kind of democracy is that? But nevertheless, in Iran, there is a system, isn't it? There is a theocracy, and there is a civil society, and there is a civil institutions, parliament or presidential institution, and all the rest. And they are powerful, by the way. Some people might not understand that Iran's president is a powerful political figure. Speaker of the parliament in Iran is a powerful political figure. It's not like religious figures only deciding everything. No, they are consulting with each other. And theocracy, as far as I can tell, theocracy is playing role of a safeguard for the society, sort of, to make sure that high moral standards are gonna be kept. That's my understanding, at least. That's why someone would want theocracy, right? Because theocracy is always, any religion is always for high moral standards, right? High moral values. And I think theocracy should be safeguard of the society, not to fail to trickery of the evil, right? I have seen criticism of Israel that females are oppressed there and they are forced to put oil on their hair. And I mean, honestly, man, I don't see how that is oppression. Just because women in Iran are not really welcome to walk around half naked or fully freaking naked, as it's become norm in the Western world, it does not mean that those women are being oppressed. No, man. Maybe I'm very conservative. I don't know, but I don't think it's a good stuff when in some parts of the world, unfortunately, in the Christian world, mostly, society is degenerated so much so that it is normal now when women or the men, by the way, are walking around freaking half naked or fully naked. It's not okay, man. It's not normal, and insanity should never be normalized, for God's sake, right? So therefore, I don't think women is oppressed in Iran. just because they have to wear this vial on her hair. It is it is Easter. We are celebrating Easter, Orthodox Christians today, right? And yesterday, we have traditions, of course, these Easter traditions, and yesterday my family members, I was working on the program, so I could not go, but my family members went to church. And they talk a while with them, because you cannot enter, women cannot enter Orthodox church with naked hair, with naked head. You just cannot, right? And I don't think women in Orthodox Christianity are oppressed. And 100 years ago, by the way, 100 years ago in Orthodox Christianity, mostly women were wearing something on the hair. And I don't think they were feeling to be oppressed that much, right? So that's my take. You might disagree with me, anything. And when it comes to uprising, I don't think recent demonstrations in Iran was a true uprising. First day when business people, due to the speculation, due to currency issues, went on a protest. That's a different story, right? There was no violence on that first day. But then this protest was hijacked by specially prepared groups that received their money, weapons, communication means, including Starlink satellites, upfront from Israel, from US intelligence services, right? They hijacked these demonstrations and transformed it into armed terrorist attack on their state. And of course, state had to defend itself in such situation, because state has obligation before society to protect them. So there was no uprising in Iran, true people's uprising. It was a CIA Mossad operation. That's what I think, man. But either way, thank you very much for your commentary, for your donation. And yeah, that is that. Either way, it is definitely up to Iranian people to decide their own future and future of their country, for sure, man. That's what I think. Also, by the way, there was a few more super chats on Rumble. Let me react on it. Elmo Shield Alerter. Scooby commented. Thank you very much, Scooby, for another super chat and $2 donation. And I don't know if this comment of yours was linked to that report about decision of Trump to block the Strait of Hormuz. Maybe that's what you meant there. And also there was Viper, member of our community, on Rumble, on YouTube too. You are on YouTube too, isn't it, Viper? Gifted their monthly premium subscription to a member of community on Rumble. That's a $5 donation to this project. So thank you very much, Viper, for your support. And also there was another super chatter, two super chats actually, and I will share both simultaneously. First from Scooby. Thank you very much, Scooby, for another super chat and a $10 donation. And Scooby commented, I think there is still a good chance that the people of US will rise up. There really is a great oppression there by their extreme Zionists there that none of us would want to live under. And I guess this is a Scooby's response to Dolphin's earlier super chatter. And I understand this position much more, although I agree with you, Scooby, that I mean, US is definitely in a dark place, to say the least. And more citizens, as far as I can tell, more and more US citizens are beginning to understand this, that they've been lied through, and that they've been living for decades into this illusion, right, that they are in charge of anything and they have a state that protects their interests. More and more people are waking up and realizing that this is all a fiction, right? In reality, US is serving interests of third parties while neglecting interests of its own citizens. And I mean, it's not that difficult to see, actually, because quality of life is dropping from I mean, last 20, 30, 40 years for sure, especially last 30 years. Quality of life is dropping big time in US. So it's not that difficult to see that something is not quite right. And more and more people actually are forced to wake up. Will they manage to rise up and regain control over their own country and their own destiny? I'm skeptical of that. I would love to see US being actually run by people that care about American citizens, that care about their own countrymen and their own country. But system is so corrupt there, by the way, and so powerful. I mean, I don't know how Americans going to manage to deal with that system, man, if it's even possible. I mean, I don't know. I wish them. I wish them luck, of course. Good luck, but it's not gonna be easy, man, to regain control over their own country. U.S. being hijacked, man, big time, by third parties, and for a very long time now. Some might even argue that U.S. was created as a tool by the special groups of interests. After all or practically all first leaders of the US, including founding fathers, were Masons, right? Freemasons. So that says quite a lot. When it comes to Masons, by the way, you know, it's a extension of their, or it's a tool, isn't it? Masonry, this Freemasonry is a tool in hands of European aristocracies. That was the case for a very long time, and it is the case now, right? There might have some internal confrontation. British Masons, or it's a Scottish lodge, isn't it, or something? But you know, British Masons might not be on the same page with the French Masons. There is two rival groups there, but nevertheless, they are tools anyways. They are tools of aristocracies, right? These families, generational clans and the families that were running the world for last at least, I don't know, man, 3 to 5 centuries, more than that. Actually, we can go back into Crusades and even beyond that, right? So, and then there is thank you very much, Scooby, for your super chat and their $10 donation. And there was a Dolphins super chat also. We have a Dolphin. Thank you very much again for a second super chat and the $10 donation. And their Dolphin is commenting. We have many people from Iran in US. I have many friends who are Iranians. They all want to be free from their mullahs. I would not want to live under them either. Do you know? It does not show completely, but let me open separately, so I will finish the sentence there. Do you know any who disagree? Well, yet again, it's I have seen tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people on videos that are coming these days from Iran. These massive, huge demonstrations that are absolutely in support of Iranian militaries that are protecting country, and they are in support of government too, which does whatever it can to protect the people, right? So, I mean, no one can say actually that system in Iran or the government has no public support. They do have public support. I would not argue about numbers, how many supports, how many didn't, because I don't know. And nobody knows in the West, by the way. In Iran, they know. They are conducting some studies, but how should I know, man? I don't. And I don't believe in any of those claims from Western propaganda that 80% of Iranians or 90% of Iranians are against their current political system and their current government. Seriously, 90%? 80%? How that can be? How that can be, man? It's absurd, right? Absurd. In that case, Iran would collapse on the very first day of this large-scale war and attack launched by Western ruling class through their proxies, US and Israel, right? And yet again, this theocracy may not be my cup of tea, but I'm not in a position to tell other peoples, other civilizations, how should they live, man? It's none of my business, right? And when it comes to people of Iranian descent in US, well, one should keep in mind that many of them, not all of them, but many of them are linked to Shah regime, right? Shah regime was extremely corrupt and extremely oppressive. In US, this part of the story have not been said, isn't it? Or in the West. This part of the story was always left out. But Shah regime that was implemented by US after US and British Secret Services, CIA and MI6 overthrow Mossadegh's government, legit democratically elected government, Shah regime that was implemented after was extremely oppressive, extremely oppressive against any opposition, against everybody, but especially aggressive against ethnic minorities, for example. Do you know that? They were extremely oppressive against ethnic minorities. Azerbaijanis, for example, they were very oppressive towards the Kurds and others. That Shah regime that is highly promoted in the West, they never cared about human rights. Never. It was extremely corrupt regime too. And when that regime was ousted, as a result of a true uprising of the people, many members of regime flee Iran immediately or shortly after, and many of them end up in Europe, in US. They took with them a lot of assets, right? That they steal from Iranian people. They use those assets to establish themselves in those countries, in US or in UK or elsewhere. And they are using these assets to establish connections, right? To establish connections. And basically, many of them become useful tools in hands of Western secret services, right? Against Iran. That's what's up, man. So therefore, I would not take for face value any statements that are coming from these monarchists, either from US, these monarchists of Iranian descent, either from US or their European countries. I would not take any of their statements for face value. They have some other agendas, and they are so bloodthirsty, man. There is so many videos on internet when these elements, and some of those monarchies become sort of public figures, right? Because they've been invited on different TVs and stuff like that during this escalation. And goodness me, man, how bloodthirsty they are. They are going to justify literally anything, even if nukes being dropped on Iran and millions of people being vaporized in a second, they will justify even that. Insanity, right? And you're gonna tell me that those people represent Iran? No, man, no way, no way. Iran is represented by those people that are fighting for Iran and are demonstrating support for Iran on the streets right now, these days, all months, by the way, every single day and every single night. There's hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people that are, despite bombings, by the way, and these gatherings were bombed too. Despite bombings, these people are demonstrating where their stand is, where they are, you know. That's the people that represent Iran, not those freaking monarchists from the US, man, that are ready to justify literally anything, any aggression against Iran, as long as they will get some chance to go back, take some position, and they become filthy rich again on, you know, while stealing people's money. You know, that's my take, man. You will disagree with me based on your comments, but it's you know, we can agree to disagree. So thank you very much for your super chat, second super chat, and their $10 donation. Thank you. And dear friends, let's have a chat. Let's have a chat through. I will scroll through. Chat there. There was more super chats. There was more super chats, dear friends. Let me highlight this. There is more super chats, so I will react on it, if I may. So few more super chats on Rumble, dear friends. Let me react on it, and then I will go through chat there. And there, Scooby is commenting. Thank you very much, Scooby, once again for your super chat and their $2 donation. And Scooby is commenting, Boosty sucks, Levan. They only allow Aussies to sign up with Google. Kinda pointless if you are trying to get away from Google. Well, you mean only Australians can sign up with Google? Yeah. I don't even know what to say. I'm not in Australia, so here works on any other platform. Google account. I'm logged in. I don't even remember with which account. Maybe with my account in Contactor, or maybe I used Google account, or I don't remember what account I use to enter this platform, Boosty, but it's just convenient. You know, you use your existing account. It will automatically show you most popular apps in your region, and you use any app, and you just go in. You don't have to fill up these application forms and stuff that some other platforms demand. So this way, it's a convenient one. But yet again, what is convenient for me may not be convenient for you or other members of the community. So it's always individual, isn't it? Thank you for sharing, and thank you for trying, Scooby. Thank you. And there was also a super chat. There was from Viper. There was from Viper, another gifter to member of our community. gift of premium subscription, monthly premium subscription. Thank you very much, Viper, once again for your supporter. This is our $5 donation. Every such a gift is a $5 donation to this project. And there was also super chats from Scooby and Dolphin again. Let me react on this. Once again, thank you very much, Dolphin, for your super chat and another super chat and $10 donation. Dolphin is commenting, part of what motivates me is I lived in Saudi Arabia in the 80s under Sharia Islamic law, like what they have in Iran now. The censorship, their physical violence, it's very real under Sharia. Well, yet again, I did not live neither in Iran or in Saudi Arabia. I never been there, by the way, in neither of these countries. But when it comes to Saudi Arabia, it's a Wahhabists there, right? Wahhabist movement. I'm not a theologist, so correct me if I'm wrong, but this Salafist movement is most radical, most extreme movement in Sunni Islam, right? And even though there are reports, at least, that under their MBS there is some movement towards sort of a liberalization in Saudi Arabia. I mean, difficult to say. Yet again, if you have not been lived there, how do you know? So it's hard to me to say. But there are some reports, some accounts that there is at least some steps towards the liberalization, as that might be part of this relatively new policy to transform Saudi Arabian economy from fully energy dependent to something else too. So they want to attract more tourists and stuff, right? More investments, and in that case, you have to create an environment in which those foreigners would not feel scared, right? So there may be some changes in this regard, but overall, I think Salafists or Wahhabists, and that is a religious direction in Sunni Islam that Al-Qaeda adopted, and ISIS, by the way. That's, you know that perfectly well. I mean, you have lived in Saudi, so you know that, isn't it, sir? That's a most radical movement inside the Sunni Islam. When it comes to Shiites, and again, not a theologist, but Shiites are not radicalized that much. Never were radicalized, actually, as much as Wahhabis, for example. And therefore, I find it hard to believe that restrictions in Iran are on the same level as in Saudi Arabia. I can see that in some provinces, I mean, there is a capital, there is a big cities, right? And there is also some rural areas. And in some rural areas, some groups of society might be very conservative, right? And this so-called moral police or something like that could operate far more strictly or strictly there in those rural areas than in the capital, for example. I can see that. I mean, this is the case in any other country, right? In the big cities, societies are more tolerant, but far you are moving from the big cities, the societies are becoming more and more conservative. This is the true in the Christian countries. I mean, this is true in Georgia. I grew up in Georgia, right? I was born there. I grew up there. I grew up in Tbilisi, capital of Georgia. That's one story. But far away you go from Tbilisi, society is becoming more and more conservative, right? And same goes for any other country, I guess, no matter Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, or Hindu, or whatever. And so therefore I can see that in some rural areas there might be some extremely conservative public and also this moral police or whatever their name is that will operate harshly. But I don't think this is the case in the big cities, really. I don't think Tehran is one of the most liberal cities, isn't it? In Iran and other big cities too also are, barely can be called that conservative, really, right? So yes, any country faces some issues, man. I'm not gonna say Iran has a perfect system. That, after all, I said already that I never understood theocracy, right? Why should I mean, how it even operates? I mean, why society will accept that or like that? But that's because I grew up in a secular world, and I'm not in a position to criticize others for choosing other path. But I can see some issues in Iran. But yet again, this is the oldest civilization. This is one of the oldest civilizations in this world. And if anyone, people know how to deal with their whatever obstacles they are facing, that's the Iranian people. They survived everything. They survived literally everything. And many other civilizations disappeared, but they still are standing strong. So you see. But of course, me personally, I would like her, all people all over the world to have at least basic freedoms, right? At least basic freedoms and opportunities. There is no ideal country anywhere in this world. We also have to be realists, right? So there is no ideal countries. But yeah, it is what it is. It's up to Iranians, man. Whatever is good for them is good for them. It's their life, their country. And better other entities stay away. Let the Iranian people decide. They can teach others, man, right, how to deal with their obstacles. They hardly need any of our lectures about what is right and what is not. And Scooby is also commented. Once again, thank you very much, Dolphin, for your super chat and donation. And Scooby, once again, thank you very much for your another super chat and the $10 donation there. And Scooby comments, it makes sense that some Iranians in the US don't like Iran. That's why they aren't in Iran. Iran will prosper and be free if we leave them alone. Let me read it. And stop operating them, stop oppressing them. Well, I agree with you, Scooby. I agree with you. I already commented on these monarchists, for example, that are very vocal nowadays. Monarchists all over Europe or in US, they are very local and they're very disappointing. Actually, I didn't expect those people to be this dishonest, man. When they began justifying that tragedy that happened with the school, for example, and some of them actually justified that. Their reaction was like, big deal. Come on, and you are saying that you care about Iranian people? What's wrong with you? That's the honest reaction that I had when I was seeing those such comments, right? During the talk shows, by the way. I'm monitoring many channels, right? Some people are going as far as I already said, to almost justify anything, including nuclear strikes, which is sickening. Which is just sickening, and that clearly demonstrates that those people don't care about Iran or Iranian society. They have some corrupt mercantile interests. That's all, really. And most likely they are linked to Shah regime. Maybe in a second generation, third generation, but probably that's the case, right? Not in every situation, but probably mostly that's case. So I can understand what you are saying, Scooby. There 100%. So thank you very much for sharing. And for the super chat and the donation. And dear friends, let's there was also super chats. There was also super chats, by the way. Let me react, if I may. So there was also super chats. Dear friends, let me react on that too. Hopefully you like their program, dear friends. We are talking about, and I already shared the news, and I finished news segment on that breaking news that Trump decided to shut down almost straight, which is crazy. I can imagine what kind of headlines are going around the world now. Tomorrow's programs that I will prepare for you are going to be interesting, for sure. And there was a free super chats on Rumble, also additional free. Thank you very much, Scooby, for another super chat and the $10 donation. Scooby commented, in the West, we don't even have a democracy or rule of law anymore. In the South, things are improving. Trends matter. Thank you very much for sharing, Scooby. I will agree with you. I will agree with you that societies in the West, that's how I see it from outside. And I have some experience living in the West. I lived there like 4 or 5 years in UK, right? When I was young. So I know partially, obviously, I mean, 4 or 5 years, it's nothing, no big deal. But nevertheless, I have some personal knowledge. And plus, I'm observing situation, right? And I think Western society is being manipulated so badly, man, and exploited so badly that it's hurtful even for me, man. Right? And can you imagine? I mean, you live in the Western world, right? And when you think about all the opportunities that you and your friends, your family members, your society was robbed of by the freaking elites that's supposed to serve you all, serve society. When you realize that should be heartbreaking, man, in a massive way, right? And extremely depressive. And I think many people are waking up, and first it's gonna be shock. Once more and more people will wake up, first there are gonna be massive shock and depression, but eventually people will manage to deal with that, and they will try to do something about it, because it's not normal, man. It's not normal. Take a look at any leading Western economies. They all are in a decline. During the Cold War, it was easier to mask everything, right? Because societies were absolutely indoctrinated into this Cold War, that there is a Soviet Union, mortal enemy, and you would be able to justify anything because of this threat of this Soviet Union, right? But Soviet Union no longer exists for more than 3 decades now, right? And but Western ruling class continues in the same manner, and therefore more and more people are waking up and realizing how much they've been lying to, because there is, no matter how hard they're gonna try, Western elites gonna try to demonize Russia and pretend that Russia is that Soviet Union. It does not work that way, right? There is, after all, this alternative means of communication. Many people from the West can watch some Russian YouTube channels, for example, or Rumble channels, or read some, use VPN and read some Russian media outlets, right? There is a communication, high level of communication, higher than during the Soviet Union.
Also, there is also basic understanding, basic knowledge that Russia, modern Russia, is as far as Soviet Union as one can be. If you want to have a reference to Soviet Union, take a look at the EU. Take a look at the EU. EU is a bad parody of the Soviet Union, by the way. Centralized power, no, minimal elements of sovereignty to the parties of the Union, right? And their bureaucracy, freaking bureaucracy that makes things unnecessarily complicated and difficult. Take a look at the EU. That's a bad parody on the Soviet Union. Russia is not Soviet Union, and many people in the West understands, and therefore they are beginning to see issues, right, that they are facing on the relatively easily. Although still majority is brainwashed, nevertheless, but economical declining eventually will force more and more people to wake up. U.S. economy is in a decline for decades now. Quality of life is dropping. Statistics might say differently, but I have asked many times members of our community what they think. I have shared my take. I'm watching all sorts of videos when people are sharing their experiences in the US, and quality of life is dropping big time. In 60s, 70s, father was working and was able to provide family. Mom was a housewife, and on wage of father, family was able to have a decent life. Now in US, that is impossible, just impossible. If you are not a freaking multimillionaire, of course. If you have just an average job and family with the 2 and more kids, probably not just you will have to work, but also your wife, just to keep up with the bills, man. And US was not like that some 40, 50 years ago. It was a different situation. And since then, there is this constant decline that accelerated after Soviet Union collapse. And take a look at the euro. The UK is in decline, Germany is in decline, France is in decline. Social fabrics being stretched beyond imagination. Also, it's And when it comes to democracy, I never believed that there was any democracy in the West, by the way. To me, it was always obvious that special groups of interests were in charge, actually, and they were just putting up show for masses, and these masses were happily buying this show as long as their quality of life was more or less okay. But now, when quality of life is declining, this show no longer enough for many people, and they are beginning to ask questions. This was always obvious to me. I don't know why Western public believed in this theater, but I mean, Also, Scooby commenting, Levan, I never asked anything of you. Please live stream on Patreon. It's their platform that has lost money and data flowing to Mike. Levan, I never asked. Also from Scooby, thank you very much, Scooby, for another super chat and donation. Levan, I never asked anything of you. Please live stream on Patreon. It's their platform that has least money and data flowing to Mike. Scooby, you're not going to believe, but I streamed on Patreon 2 days ago. I was streaming simultaneously to YouTube, Rumble, and Patreon. And on Patreon, live stream didn't appear. So I'm going to try again. I'm going to work this out. I linked my Patreon page to StreamYard, right? And it worked. It's linked, and but live stream never appeared on my page. I don't know. Maybe I have to dig into a page there on Patreon. I will, and I want to stream simultaneously on all three platforms. And I tried live stream after you suggested, Scooby. So thank you very much for the suggestion. I'm gonna try for sure again, because something did not work, and I was disappointed that live stream did not appear. Then I had to upload the video and drop the original links from YouTube and Rumble there, and I did it. But I was hoping that live stream would automatically appear, as it does automatically on YouTube and Rumble. Once you link your channels to StreamYard. But I will work on that. I will definitely work on that, and I will try my best to deal with that situation. And also there was another super chat from Dolphin. Thank you very much, Dolphin, again for your super chat and their $10 donation. And Dolphin is commenting, Iran is not a country that is just minding its own business, and that's the real issue. They have admitted proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, all destabilizing countries. ISIS, Iraq. Well, ISIS has nothing to do with Iran. Dolphin, you know that, isn't it? ISIS and Al Qaeda. That's radical Sunni groups, Wahhabis, right? They were adopting that Wahhabi strength of Sunni Islam that is a dominant in Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, in GCC countries, with the exception of Bahrain, because in Bahrain, majority is a Shiite Muslim, right? And when it comes to these groups that you mentioned that have some connection with Iran, actually, Hamas. When it comes to Hamas, by the way, I mean, that's a interesting story. Hamas only exists because of the Israeli support of this group. You remember, isn't it, that there was a internal conflict among Palestinians when on one side Fatah, that is formally in charge of the West Bank, are supposed to be, and on another side Hamas were fighting each other. And who inspired this infight? Israel. How Hamas was able to defeat Fatah in the Gaza Strip? Because of Israel. Israel used Hamas against Fatah, and then was financing through Qatar, allowing finances, money to flow to Hamas, right, for many, many years. And when it comes to October 7 too, I mean, I have so many questions, man. I have so many questions about October 7, especially about this ultra-militarized country, Israel, that controls literally everything, not just in its own territory, but throughout the region. They have demonstrated their capabilities on numerous occasions, and somehow they missed this October 7 attack. No, man, no. Something. I mean, nothing is adding up there, right? Some dumb, dodgy story there. As a result of which, so many innocent people died. So with this Hamas and with this October 7 and Israel, I mean, I have so many questions, man, and I don't know if ever true real answers will be available. So I would not link Hamas with Iran. Gaza people in the Gaza Strip have a support from all over the world because they are oppressed, right? And it's a human reaction. It's a normal human reaction. When you see people being oppressed, you have sympathies towards those people. And if you can help somehow, you will do it, right? It's a human stuff. That's what we do, man. We should support each other, help each other, right? So, of course, Iran probably was providing some help to Gaza Strip, but I would not link Hamas with Iran, especially because Hamas is a Sunni organization, more linked to Muslim Brotherhood, right? Muslim Brotherhood, by the way, and that's why Egypt don't want to see Hamas enter their territory, because Egyptian elites are in a fight against Muslim brotherhoods. They have their internal wars there, right? That going on between different groups of special interests. Turkey probably are much more close to Hamas than Iran, because Turkey is a Sunni, majority Sunni country, and the Turkish current ruling class also closely linked with the Muslim Brotherhood. That's one thing. That's when it comes to Hamas. I mean, there's so many questions, isn't it? And yet again, I'm not an expert in Middle Eastern affairs, so that's just my understanding. When it comes to Hezbollah and the Houthis, well, Hezbollah is a resistance movement. Hezbollah is an organization that was created as a result of Israeli occupation of the southern Lebanon, and that's the roots. That's where roots of Hezbollah goes, right? And it so happened that in southern Lebanon, majority or significant portion, at least, I would not argue now who is majority, who is minority, but significant portion of the society was a Shiite, correct? And it so happened that when Israel occupied Israel was occupying Lebanon, right? And in southern Lebanon, this movement rose up. That was based originally on some different groups, right? But it's transformed into this Hezbollah that is known worldwide, and everybody, majority of countries in this world see Hezbollah as a resistance movement. Hezbollah is not declared as a terrorist organization here in Russia, for example. I think Hezbollah never been declared as a terrorist organization, neither in the Soviet Union, neither in Russia. And I don't think Hezbollah is declared as a terrorist organization in the majority of the countries in this world. It's a resistance movement. And any people under the occupation have a God-given right to resist the occupier. I mean, that's the basis, right? And if Iran is providing assistance to oppressed people, that's a honorable step, man. That's a honorable step. Iran is supporting oppressed people, and you want to criticize Iran for that? How? You are not criticizing oppressor, Israel, and you are criticizing country that supports oppressed people? No, I mean, I'm just asking. My thought process does not work like that. I think Iran is engaged in honorable steps whenever they are providing assistance to Hezbollah. And there are people of Lebanon, by the way, because Hezbollah is the only force that actually protects people of Lebanon. There are some, there is a Lebanese army, right? But it's a weaker than police special forces. Actually, I mean, it's formally called the army, but in reality, it's anything but. There are also some paramilitaries of Christians in Lebanon, and Sunnis too. And recently there was reports that there was certain activization of Sunni paramilitaries and they received allegedly some assistance from Syria, but yet again, major force that protects people of Lebanon is Hezbollah. It's a Hezbollah fighters that are actually doing fighting on the ground. And yet again, if Iran provides assistance to these oppressed people, then why is that a bad thing? That's an honorable thing, right? That's how I see this. And when it comes to Houthis, by the way, I mean, Houthis were terrorized. Let's remember that when Saudi Arabia was created, when British Empire began dividing this Arabian Peninsula into different these monarchies and stuff, they took areas where predominantly Houthis were living, and Houthis, that's a Shiite that's yet another movement in the Shiite Islam, right? And Brits talk areas where predominantly Houthis were living and divided this area between Saudi Arabia and Yemen, right? And Yemen never agreed, actually, on such a divide. There was a war, and Saudis won that war. Not alone, obviously, with the help. But nevertheless, connections between the Houthis that are now on the other side of the border in Saudi Arabia and the Houthis that are living in Yemen, connections remain. And their border there, it's not like a border, it's not like a wall. It's a mountainous area. People are crossing in and out whenever they want, right? And there was many instances when Yemeni Houthis were crossing into Saudi Arabia during the war, recent war that Saudi Arabia, UAE, and many others were waging against Houthis. These Houthi rebels were, moving into Saudi Arabia, conducting military operations, and going back to Yemen, right? Because they have this ground support on the bordering region. So that's some little bit of story there, right? And Houthis are oppressed. Houthis are not an oppressors. Yet again, they've been oppressed. Just in last 9-10 years, by the way, how many countries were fighting there? Saudi Arabia, UAE, and their allies. They were bombing day in, day out, right? For 9 straight years, Houthis. They lost war with Houthis anyways, but it was Saudi Arabia and UAE aggressor, not the Houthis. And if Iran provided Houthis with some assistance, how that is a bad thing, really? I mean, Iran provided assistance to oppressed people. Okay, I'm okay with that. I don't see Houthis as a terrorist organization for sure. Ansar Allah movement, let's say. I don't see them as a terrorist group. I see them as a resistance movement. And that's how world sees it, just, in the Western world, I can understand that propaganda is such that anybody Western elites don't like, they are framing as a terrorist. And people are lazy to dig in and find a little bit more, right? About root causes of crisis, wars and stuff like that. If you learn a little bit more details, you will just have a better understanding of the situation. And, you will realize that it's not like black and white necessarily always. No, it's much more complicated than that. But unfortunately, very many people in the Western world just are too lazy to actually do some little bit of research, right? It does not take years, just a little bit, right? And you will realize that it's much more complicated than this CNN wants you to believe, or the Fox News, or BBC, or France 24, or Deutsche Welle, or whatever, New York Times, right? And so, yes, I mean, I don't know. Iran was doing honorable stuff, supporting oppressed people. There's nothing bad in that. I definitely cannot criticize Iran for being supportive of people in need, man. And when it comes to Iraq and ISIS, ISIS is a CIA creation. ISIS is a radical Sunni movement. Wahhabis were leading the ISIS, and Iran actually was fighting against ISIS and Al-Qaeda. So that's how it is. And the majority Iraqis, by the way, are Shiites too. I'm just saying. Thank you very much for donation, Dolphin, and interesting discussion overall. Thank you very much to you and to Scooby. We truly had a good discussion from Rumble Chatter in today's program. Thank you. And there was also from Scooby comment on a super and a super chat on Rumble. Let me highlight this one too. Scooby commented, thank you very much, Scooby, for your super chat and the $10 donation. Hamas and ISIS, Scooby is commenting, are creations of Israel and their CIA. ISIS for sure, and Hamas only exists, I believe, because of the Israel. There was not even slightest chance that Hamas would defeat Fatah in a fight, if not Israeli support that they were receiving, direct and indirect. So, you know. And when it comes to ISIS, of course, it's a CIA creation, and they're allies of US or allies of CIA, let's say, were participating. Saudi Arabia, Qatar play a role in creation and the financing of that terrorist group, as it was the case with Al-Qaeda too, by the way. And Israel played its role, of course. So yes, I mean, this is, I agree with you, Scooby. I mean, sometimes, in the Western media, I see in these talk shows when people are trying to link even Al-Qaeda and ISIS with Iran, and I'm sitting like that. These people should be experts, man. They've been invited on talk shows and stuff, and they don't even know difference between Sunnis and Shiites, man, and they are pretending to be experts, right? And who knows, maybe millions of people, tens of millions of people being brainwashed by so-called experts like that, But yeah, thank you very much, Scooby, once again for your donation and super chat. And dear friends, let's go. Let me scroll chat. Oh, I see question from Nidish. Levan, why is everyone forgot about internet cables going through their same strait? They can crank their pressure up even more. Just look at their internet cables map. Well, that's interesting stuff, man. I did not really forgot about this internet cables and AI companies. Iran a couple of times made the statements that they will take out some installations of the AI companies in the region if necessary. And I believe at least once they are actually struck some data center in one of the Gulf monarchies. I mean, this is an issue, of course. This is a big deal. And somehow, yes, no, you don't really hear anything about these cables in the media, isn't it? Maybe because people are not really realizing how important those cables are for business, right? For business, for markets, for many things. It's not just it's not just simply the internet, right? It's extremely important for many due to many other implications. But yes, that's big topic, and I agree with you. Practically, I mean, you don't hear nothing about these cables in the media. I'm scrolling, dear friends, now. If I see capital letters or capital Q, also Nidish is commenting, Levan, I will bet he can't even be able to close their straighter as well. And I don't know. I mean, it's technically speaking, it's not a big deal. US can establish maritime control over the Gulf of Oman, right? And they can block any vessel that will try to either enter Persian Gulf or to leave Persian Gulf. But based on these massive failures in very many directions of US and Israel, Western ruling class, let's say, who knows, man? Who knows? You know. And then it's gonna be pressure, right? Trump threatened that they're gonna close Strait, but uh, you know, for Japan, this strait is extremely important. If Japan tomorrow says, I mean, let our two tankers pass through, what Washington gonna say? No, that will jeopardize. That will jeopardize relationships between Washington and Tokyo, between Washington and Seoul too, because for South Korea is tremendously important to maintain connection with the Persian Gulf, right? And so I can see. I mean, technically, of course, U.S. Navy can block Persian Gulf and Hormuz Strait for sure, technically, but will they be able to pull off this politically? I don't know. We will see. After this live stream, I'm going to go through as many media outlets as I possibly can, right, to see reactions worldwide, and their best of reactions I will share with you in tomorrow's updates. But it is interesting how world will react on that decision of Trump. It's it's crazy. Not surprising, though. I was saying since forever, isn't it, that Western ruling class wants to isolate the region, and that's what they are doing, actually. Trying, at least, trying hard. And also, Nidish is commenting, Trump give her this statement to just manipulate stocks. He will just go back in just 2 days after his body's made enough profits worldwide. I mean, it also could be a case, even for extremely corrupt US political system, Trump's administration is just something extraordinary, man. I have not seen ever U.S. president being engaged in a so-called sort of inside trade this openly, man, or his family, president's family, to be involved in inside trade this openly, man. Trump's administration is quite unique in this regard. They have no shame, man. They don't care, literally, right? So who knows? Maybe that's exactly the pointer. But I don't know. Western ruling class wants to isolate the region. That's their main goal in the Middle Eastern chapter, and how they will try to achieve this. That's something up to discussion. I have my takes. I shared a couple of scenarios that they might try to implement. There may be some other scenarios too, but same time, of course, we should not forget that Trump and his clan is extremely corrupt, and they might use this position of power to manipulate markets, as they, according to many reports, did many times before. It's insanity, man. Almost 3 hours, by the way. Almost 3 hours. Oh, that's very nice of you. Dolphin is commenting, yes, good discussion, Levan. You have a deeper understanding of this conflict than most on TV. Thank you very much for your kind words, sir. Truly appreciate. Thank you. That's nice. Thank you. And dear friends, should we end the live stream on that. What do you think? We had a good discussion, isn't it? And Dolphin and Scooby were definitely dominating the chatter, and they basically orchestrated a quite interesting discussion, I think. So thank you to you both, and many thanks to all of you, dear community. Thank you for being here, and I truly hope you like the program. If I may, I will end live stream now. It's almost 3 hours, so thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, and take care. Bye for now.